Today's story comes from the Am I the A-hole subreddit and was posted by Stunning Factor 871 and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for finally supporting my husband's ultimatum to his late wife's parents after they've repeatedly excluded my son? I, 35 female, am in a loving blended family, but the extended family drama is crushing me. I have a wonderful 10-year-old son. My current husband, 32 male, lost his first wife 4 years ago and has a 7-year-old son. We've built a beautiful family of 4. My husband treats both boys exactly the same. I do the same with my stepson, and the boys love each other like real brothers. We're genuinely happy despite everything. The problem is my husband's ex-in-laws, his late wife's parents. They constantly badmouth me and paint me as the evil stepmom, feeding every nasty stereotype, mean, neglectful, manipulative, jealous, etc., to my husband's parents and anyone who will listen. For example, after my stepson had a minor injury, they said things like stepmoms can never be real. Why would she even care about him? They accuse me of manipulating my stepson and try to turn everyone against me. Every time they visit, they completely ignore my son. No greetings, no conversation. They bring gifts, toys, chocolates, and sweets only for their biological grandson. When my kind-hearted stepson immediately shares everything with my son, as he always does, they get visibly annoyed, say things like, "Why are you sharing with him? That's for you only," and even try to pull him away. My husband has been solid and always says other people's opinions don't matter. He wanted to set a strong boundary earlier by announcing on my stepson's birthday, "If you are family, then you're a family to both kids. If that's not possible, you're not family and not invited." I stopped him because I thought a nice talk would work. I've been holding my husband back from taking any harsh steps in order to respect his ex-in-laws as they lost their daughter. I wanted to respect the memory of his late wife and give them time to adjust. On my stepson's birthday last year, his side of the family showed up with gifts and love. On my son's birthday, almost no one came, and the few who did showed up empty-handed. Gifts aren't important to us as adults, but to a child it feels like rejection and being left out. My son was sad and has started asking me painful questions because of this exclusion, like why they don't like him or what he did wrong, which breaks my heart. I have zero family on my side, so he doesn't have that extended network. His birthday is coming up soon, and I'm dreading it. I'd even be happy to buy gifts myself that they could give him if that makes it easier. I just don't want him to feel left out again. Recently, after they left, my son refused to eat the chocolates or play with the shared toys. He quietly kept everything in his pockets and returned it all to me. That broke me. I'm completely fine with them loving their biological grandson more. That's natural. But the open hostility, exclusion of my son, and constant comments are painful. Edit. I finally stopped holding my husband back. He is now taking strict action and has given an ultimatum to his side of the family. Either they're family to both kids or family to none. Am I the a-hole for supporting this hard line now, after previously trying to keep the peace? Or should I still be trying to make nice for the sake of family and my husband's late wife's memory? I just want my son to feel included and loved on his birthday instead of rejected again. Relevant comments. A Symphony in 2 parts says, "Not the a-hole. Your husband is stepping up. The trick is going to be managing the relationship with the boys so that there is no resentment. If you're no contact/low contact with the family for a while, that will be fine." On a separate note, who shows up to kid's birthday party without a gift? What blatant a-holes? SarksumQN5 says, "Your husband absolutely is doing the right thing. It's great to hear how your nuclear family is navigating life together. Time to limit exposure to the boys' maternal grandparents before they start planting seeds in the boy's brain. Shame on them." Pebble Hunter says, "I 100% agree. By blending the family with such calm and consideration by the parents is a beautiful thing to see. Let your husband take over. It's long overdue." Infamous Custard 3292 says, "Going against the grain. You're the a-hole. This are stepson's grandparents, not your son's. They don't owe him anything. Not gifts, not attention, not outings. From now on, arrange the visits at their house or somewhere else, and let dad take him while you stay back with your son. Stepson should not lose his family that has done nothing but love him because you want even treatment. Sorry, but that's not a logical thought process. They have no relationship to you or your son. If they want him to have gifts and show up for his big events, that is all normal. Life is not fair, and stepson has grandparents. Unfortunately, yours just doesn't. Stop trying to make them surrogate grandparents to your son. Update 1. My husband's parents came over for dinner. After dinner, they started a conversation about the ultimatum my husband had given them earlier. He had finally sat them down and asked why they blindly believe everything his ex-in-laws say about me. They responded that they've seen everything with their own eyes and listed their issues with me. That I'm too harsh and casual when talking about his mother's death, for example, saying she died or she is dead, instead of using softer words. That I'm careless, especially after their grandson had a small injury. That I'm trying to erase his mother's memory. They also accused me of manipulating my husband about the cat. My stepson wanted a cat, but my husband said no because he felt it would be cruel to bring a pet home when we can't give it proper care and attention. His parents tried to convince him to get one anyway. I didn't even know there was any argument between him and his parents over this. I only knew that he had told my stepson no when he asked. Now, they're claiming I manipulated him into refusing. My husband defended me and explained. Our therapist specifically recommended we be direct and straightforward about his mother's death, so my stepson can learn the permanence of death at his age. That's why I use clear wording, not just about his mom, but even when referring to my own late relative. When he, my hubby, was a child, he got injured often, including breaking his arm once, but that didn't mean his mother was careless. He asked them, "Do you think I'm stupid or blind? If my wife was actually doing something wrong, don't you think I would notice?" The conversation turned into a big argument, especially over the cat issue. Relevant comments. Competitive Push 715 says, "Oh my God, they are ridiculous." Brave Refrigerator 552 says, "Do they realize next step is low or no contact?" Dolly Sheep 32 says, "Then annoying ranting about grandparents' rights." Shirtha Wine says, "Wait, I'm confused. The first post at first says husband's ex-in-laws, deceased wife's parents, were the issue, and then later talks about your husband's family/parents. This post also talks about your husband's family. So which is it? I would agree his parents should, for the most part, treat the boys the same, but his former wife's family, absolutely not. As for how you refer to your stepson's mother, think carefully here. Yes, you want the kid to understand this is permanent, but ask yourself how you'd want someone to talk about you if you were the one who died or if it was your mother. Right now, I'm not sure this is real given the mix-up between former in-laws or his parents." Hope replied, "My hubby's ex-in-laws bad-mouthed me to all the relatives from hubby's side, including my hubby's parents. So the ultimatum my hubby gave was for all, and my hubby's parents came to talk about it, and this happened." Tasha T. 50 says, "It's both sets of parents as they're still close based on my reading." Hope replied, "Yeah, exactly, and I became a scapegoat." Update 2. My son turned 11 yesterday. It was better than last year, but still pretty awkward overall. Most of the relatives we invited from my husband's side actually showed up. It was clear they mainly came because they didn't want to upset my husband after the ultimatum. They brought gifts for both boys and stayed polite, but the vibe was we're here to keep the peace rather than genuine warmth. Most of them kept interactions with my son short and surface level while being more natural with my stepson. We also invited my husband's ex-in-laws, but they didn't show up at all, which we expected. After cake and presents, my husband pulled his parents aside for a private talk. He explained the therapist's advice about using direct words like died and death, so our stepson can properly understand what happened. He invited them to join us for a therapy session if they wanted. They agreed it made sense and said they'd think about coming. Before everyone left, my husband and I thanked them all for showing up. We told them sincerely that it meant a lot to us that they came and were there for both boys. I'm happy they showed up. I completely understand that my son and my stepson are not the same for them. I know they'll always love their biological grandson more. That's natural. I just want basic kindness and inclusion for my son, and yesterday was a step in the right direction. My son had a decent day. He was happy about his gifts and that so many people came this year. He wasn't ignored or left out like before, and he didn't ask any heartbreaking questions. He did notice the difference in how people acted toward him, but he still went to bed smiling. I have to say, my husband has been absolutely amazing through all of this. He stayed strong, protected both boys, held the boundary, and made sure our son still felt celebrated. I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful, fair, and protective partner. He really is the rock of our family. It feels like a lot of this is damage control on their part, but at least my son got to celebrate without feeling rejected. We're keeping the boundary firm and taking the small progress where we can get it. Relevant comments. Previous wedding 577 says, Hope he is a good man in her life. Hope replied, I know I'm blessed. Ethan Young 45 says, He does really. The most important thing is that he put his money where his mouth was, which probably made all the difference for those two kids. Greenade 9329 says, I have to ask, why did relatives give presents to both boys? Gifts should have been just for the birthday child. Other than that, you're doing well. Hold the line. Straight example 9126 says, They love OP's stepson. Since they primarily came to keep the peace, they gave token gift to OP's biological son. Their preference is still OP's stepson. Indirectly, they're telling OP though OP's husband made them come down for fairness. Their allegiance will always be towards their blood, also known as OP's stepson. They won't give a gift to OP's son on stepson's birthday. That would give them smug satisfaction, I suppose. As long as the partiality isn't in face, OP will let go, I guess. I'm glad that she has a strong husband. Hopefully therapist sessions will help in bringing down animosity towards OP and her child. Ultimately, stepson needs a kind mother, which OP is. Hope replied, Their preference will always be my stepson, no doubt in that. Yeah, as long as partiality isn't in face, I don't have any problem. Final update 3. Hi everyone. I wasn't planning on making another update, but a lot of people asked what happened after my husband's parents agreed to attend a therapy session with us. Birthday celebrations. A lot of people asked why my post focused on relatives instead of my son's friends. In my husband's family, birthdays have always been celebrated in two parts. On the child's actual birthday, we have a family celebration with relatives. Then, on the following weekend, the birthday child has a separate celebration with their friends. That's the tradition both boys have grown up with, and they genuinely enjoy it. My son absolutely celebrated with his friends as well. It just wasn't relevant to my previous posts because all of the issues happened during the family celebration. Our relationship timeline. Quite a few people also wondered how long after my husband's first wife passed away we met. She had passed away about 1 year and 5 months before we met. We dated for 15 months before getting married, and we've now been married for 16 months. Some people assumed our relationship started immediately after his loss, but that wasn't the case. Now for the update. After my son's birthday, my husband's parents came with us to one of our therapy sessions. I honestly expected it to turn into another argument, but it didn't. Our therapist first explained why she had recommended that we use direct words like died and death when talking to my stepson instead of softer phrases like passed away. She explained that children his age understand the permanence of death much better when adults use clear, direct language, and that euphemisms can sometimes be confusing. She also explained something that I hadn't really thought about before. Because my stepson lost his mother so young, everyone around him naturally wanted to protect him from more pain. Between us, my husband's parents, and his late mother's parents, a lot of adults tried to soften the reality of what had happened. The therapist said that while those intentions came from love, constantly shielding a child from direct conversations about death can make it harder for them to fully understand that death is permanent. That was one of the reasons she encouraged us to use clear language and answer his questions honestly in an age-appropriate way. She emphasized that helping a child understand the permanence of death isn't cruel. It's actually an important part of healthy grieving. She also made it clear that this wasn't something I decided on by myself. It was advice we were given in therapy and have been following consistently. My husband's parents admitted they hadn't known that. They said they genuinely thought I was being insensitive. My husband then told his parents something that I think needed to be said. He told them that if they ever have concerns about our younger one or about any parenting decision we make, he wants them to come directly to us instead of making assumptions. He said he'd much rather have an uncomfortable conversation than have people filling in the blanks or believing someone else's version of events. It was awkward at times. There were quiet moments. After the session, they thanked us and left. No big emotional talk. The session simply ended with everyone understanding each other's perspective a little better than before. Since then, we've noticed small but meaningful changes. I'm glad they came. It feels like a small step, not a big change. We're not expecting miracles. Relevant comments. Hung Whiteboy 25 says, "Opie, the one thing I really like about these posts is the way your husband supports you. We constantly read stories like this where the husband is spineless and doesn't stand up for his wife. It's really refreshing seeing a couple that acts like a team." Definite lie, they says. When I met my late husband, I was a single mom with a 3-year-old little girl. He adored her and beamed like the proudest father when a waiter in a restaurant told her she looked just like her daddy. We'd only been dating a few months at that time. We married and went on to have 3 more children. His parents welcomed us into their family from the time they met us and treated my little girl like any of their grandchildren. A few years after my husband passed, I remarried. Mom's words to me, "If you love him, we love him and wish you every blessing." I stayed very close to Mom and Dad until they passed. After Dad passed, Mom would tell me he always bragged about me to his fishing buddies and how I could do just anything. We lost Mom a few months ago. She passed 2 days after my last visit to see her. Her last words to me were, "You've always been such a wonderful daughter and a great comfort to me. Best gift I could ever have received." The second story is from Best Off Redditor Updates subreddit. It was posted by Allison Green and was titled, "Do I have to watch my boss's grandkids?" I work in an office that has a daycare for employees' kids. It is a great perk for those with small children, and those of us without small children enjoy it too, because the little ones pass through the hallways on a daily basis for stroller rides. My issue with this is my boss, of course. She brings her 2-year-old granddaughter to the daycare and has, on 5 occasions, asked me to watch the child while she goes out to the car for her bags, which takes her 15 to 20 minutes. All 5 times, the child has cried uncontrollably because she's being left with a stranger. I've told my boss each time that I was sorry, but the child does not seem to be comfortable with me, and maybe she should take the baby with her next time. Needless to say, that hasn't worked especially well. My solution has been to find something to do away from my desk about the time my boss gets into work, and then wait until she heads down the hallway to go back to my desk. The problem with this is that it seems pretty obvious what I am doing, though my boss has never said anything. Now my boss has a new granddaughter, and she will be bringing the baby along with the 2-year-old to the daycare. And I'm pretty sure she will not be able to carry in all of her things and keep control of a stroller and a 2-year-old. Ugh, I dread this. One of my coworkers has suggested to my boss that she do what all of the other parents do and park in the turnaround at the front door near the daycare entrance and bring the kids in that way. Then she could park by the door near her office and bring in her bags that way. My boss talked for days, yes, days, about how this was not a good solution for her and that she wanted to park near her office so that she didn't lose her usual parking spot. Would you please help me craft a way to tell my boss I do not want to watch her grandkids? I do believe that it will be a daily occurrence, since she will have so much to carry in. I like kids. I have young kids myself. But watching a crying baby makes me uncomfortable and is definitely not a good start to my day. Relevant comments. Opie explained the meaning of small children aloud at the daycare. Op says, "I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old that do not need daycare. Small children meant those that weren't in school and therefore were in the daycare. Our daycare does allow for grandchildren because they have the room since they aren't full with employees' children." Commenter 1 says, "Is this possibly her way of grabbing a smoke or doing something else under a plausible cover story? I can't imagine it actually taking 20 minutes to do this." Op replied, "My boss tends to get on her cell phone when she goes for her bags, and she also stops in the hall and talks on the way there and back. It adds up." Commenter 2 says, "I am dumbfounded at this manager's presumption. Opie, why does she seem to be singling you out for babysitting duty? It's pretty weird that she is forcing an employee to babysit, but even weirder that she is specifically asking the same person to do it." Op replied, "I am the first one there in the morning, so there isn't any other direct report to ask. Also, I sit right outside her office. Commenter 3 says, the daycare is for the children of employees, not employees' grandchildren. Why are these kids even in the building? Perhaps Human Resources can question why these kids are even in the daycare at all? Hope replied, actually, the daycare allows it. My boss told me it was because the daycare wasn't full and they were happy to take her money. Plus, she's been with the company for more than 30 years, and she just does whatever she wants to, like leaving her crying grandkids with an employee that has been there less than 1 year. Opie was asked if she was going to tell her boss that she wasn't comfortable caring for her boss's grandchildren. Hope says, a couple weeks ago, I said, I don't think Jane is comfortable with me. Maybe you should leave her with someone else or take her with you. There is another woman that sits next to me from a different department, and the boss has known her a lot longer than me. So technically, there is someone else to ask. But she didn't ask the other woman and gave me one of her boss looks. Since then, I get up and find something else to do right before she comes in. Cowardly, I know, but my boss takes everything personally and holds grudges. I have noticed that she now walks the kids to daycare and then gets her bags out of the car. And she still will not use the turnaround the other parents use. Her latest complaint is that someone will dent her car if she does that. She's been with the company for over 30 years, and I believe she feels entitled. Commenter 4 says, it must be my raw postpartum hormones, but the only thing I could lock into from this letter was the poor baby was just dumped with someone that she doesn't know and is probably freaked out. Poor little thing. So my perspective is this: screw the grandmother. She sucked for doing that to her grandbaby. You're kind of getting hosed either way. You stand up to the boss and deal with the repercussions or be stuck with the kids. I'd say try to make those 15 to 20 minutes as happy as you can for the kid, because grandma boss is going to just dump the babies on someone else that might not be nice to them if you don't do it. I just feel sorry for the kids if grandma's the type to not really consider them in the whole deal. Hope replied, I totally agree about the kids not being at fault. I do my best with them. We look out the window and count the ducks and read a book and whatever else I can think of. But the toddler only goes for that for a couple minutes and looks for grandma again and again. One of the other ladies that sits near me, not a direct report of the boss, has tried to help by giving the toddler candy. Candy at 8 in the morning. Really? Sadly, it works and the boss doesn't get mad. But it really bothers me. Update. Well, I did get up the nerve and told the boss, no, I really don't feel comfortable watching the kids. We then had a bit of stare down, and I walked away and sat down at my desk. Afterwards, she was very short with me for about 3 days. It was uncomfortable, but she didn't ask me again. I learned that silence works wonders with her. She's a micromanager and will walk up right behind me and look at what is on my computer screen and just stand there. I no longer say anything. I just keep working. Or if someone is in my cube and we're working on something, she walks up to the cube and stares at me with a fierce frown on her face. I used to explain what I was doing, training, etc., but now I am just silent. She will finally walk away. The good news is that shortly after that, I was offered a new job, which I have since started. More money and the benefits are awesome. In the last 2 weeks I was at the old job, she told me how wonderful I was, and she didn't know how she was going to do without me. I tried a couple times to explain what I didn't like, the micromanaging and her giving preference to my coworker, who is her friend, but she would change the subject. I haven't gotten a read on my new boss yet. Who knows what fun stuff I will experience at the new place. Relevant comments. Opie explained what the manager ended up doing about the grandchildren. Op says, my manager ended up bringing the kids in, dropping off her purse, and turning on her computer. Then she took the kids to daycare and then went back out to her car for her other 2 to 3 bags. 2 of the bags were for the kids, so every day about mid-morning, she'd have to take the kids' bags to daycare. Such a waste of time to me, but she refused to drive up and leave her car on the turnaround. She had so many excuses for why, but the only one I remember is that she was sure someone would hit her car while she was in the building dropping off the kids. Now I wonder if the person who replaced me will go through the same thing. Commenter 1 says, or if someone is in my cube and we're working on something, she walks up to the cube and stares at me with a fierce frown on her face. I used to explain what I was doing, training, etc., but now I am just silent. She will finally walk away. Wow. What's even more crazy is, in her mind, this is probably a totally justified management technique. Hope you've moved on to sunnier pastures. Commenter 2 says, I suppose she could think she was dropping in to get a feel for what was going on, and has an unfortunate frowny face when she is paying close attention. Commenter 3 says, about the walking up to your desk and staring at you. So she had a legitimate question and was waiting to be acknowledged rather than interrupting. How would you know? Hope you are happier in your new position. Roughing It says, it sounded to me like the OP had a pretty good feel for what the manager was doing here, which wasn't to ask a question, but rather to intimidate. The fact that OP says she used to explain what she was doing to the manager makes me think the manager just wanted to intimidate her and force her to explain herself. Also, if the manager had a question for the OP, it would be weird of the manager not to say so, and rather to just stand there for a long period of time and then walk away. A normal person would say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I needed to ask you about the Waking file. The standing there, staring, and then walking away thing says to me the manager was just being a crazy biatch. Hope replied, I think you have it exactly right, Roughing It. I believe she was trying to intimidate. She wanted to know everything I was doing at all times, which didn't make much sense since she gave me 95% of my work. The two managers above her, vice president and director, would give me work, and it drove her crazy. So she'd wait until they walked away and ask what I was doing and then try to tell me how to do it. Not a good use of her time or mine, especially since it was stuff I knew how to do. And many times she would walk up and ask me for this or that like a normal person.